Or breathing in and out all the time. So if you can do that, then you can regulate yourself.
If you can do that, you can regulate yourself. I love that. It's so simple. Simon, we have been connected for about 10 or 11 months now. And we just had the conversation before we started recording. I was like, I don't really know much about Simon. I just know he's a lovely bloke. And I know roughly what you do, but I'm like, so I don't think I've ever asked this question before, but Simon, what's the story?
Okay, so let's do Once Upon a Time then, because I love stories.
I love this.
That's one of the things I do on a Monday is a Monday monologue, which is a fable story every single Monday. And we'll come back to that in a second. So I spent 28 years in the corporate world, and I started off in sales and then started building sales teams. Then I went into operations. And the last 15 years of that journey was in HR and training. And then one wonderful day, there was an opportunity to take redundancy.
Mm-hmm.
So my level within the company, they needed to keep 25 of us and lose 25 of us, okay, around the country.
I love that you called it an opportunity to take redundancy, because most people would see that as a negative straight away.
No. It was because when I saw the package, I looked at it and then I looked at it again and I went, bearing in mind I work in HR, and I've got, somebody's made a mistake here. But anyway, I won't say that. I went home, showed my wife, and she looked at it, and then she looked at me, and she looked at it again, and she went, well, if you don't take it, I'm divorcing you. So there we go.
Wow. Obviously, you love your wife.
Exactly. So I said, thank you very much. Here's my notice. And off I went. And the idea was I was going to start drawing down a pension from the pension pot the following year. And I was going to open up a consultancy for HR and training because that's what was my bag. But a chance meeting with my GP, and I've known my GP as a kind of a friend and confidant for quite a few years, like 20, said, you'd be a really good counsellor, you know. And as it happened, his little sister, who was doing a counselling course, I had a chat with her. Then I went off and did a deep dive into therapy and counselling and decided, yeah, that's for me, and did a 4-year postgrad degree in psychotherapy.
Oh, wow.
And at the same time, set up a new business and practice, which is therapy, counselling and coaching.
Oh, wow. Nice. You're like the Hovis of all of it then. You're like the best of all three. Wow. What did you want to do when you I love this phrase because I hate it. But what did you want to do when you grow up, when you were a kid?
Okay, so let's go. So when I was in senior school, which would have been senior school then, okay, right. So couple of things. They discovered that I was dyslexic when I was 10, 11. They just thought I was stupid at that point, and then they realised, oh no, it's not. Okay, so I had a reading age of about 5 or 6, and then they put stuff in place for me to help and understand. And within 12 months, I got up to the reading age I was supposed to be, and in another 12 months, I surpassed it.
Oh, wow.
Then at that point, I was really good at arts, really, really good at arts, and I loved history, and I had an aptitude for physics. So what can you do with history, physics, and arts? You can be an architect.
Oh, wow.
So that's the thing I was going to do. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, my second year of A-levels, I literally, and I'm not proud of this, but it happened. Okay, I had a run-in with my history teacher, and I knew the subjects. I thought I knew the subject more than he did. And this particular subject, he'd only learned the previous year because they changed syllabus, and I knew that. And I was a clever numpty at the time. And had a little scuffle with him, got suspended. I was allowed to come back and sit my A-level history and arts, which I got, and I got an A and a B. I couldn't do the physics because, bear in mind, I was suspended, and I was suspended for long enough in the second year of the A-levels to not sit it. So that was that. I decided I'm not going to be an architect anymore. I'm fed up with school, and I'm going to go and do some work somewhere else. And I ended up in a PR company, being a T-boy. And then but because I'd sent out loads of applications, and this is back in the day when you were able to actually send out an application and people actually wrote back to you, and because this is in the olden days, remember, because I'm very, very old, and
You're not that old, Simon.
I'm 65 in 2 weeks. So
Oh
yeah, I
yeah.
am. Yeah, I am. But I use oil of Ulay. That's the
Oh,
reason.
do you?
Yeah,
Do
it's
you?
very good.
Does that still work? Oil of Ulay?
Well, clearly it does.
I mean, obviously it works for you, but have they still got the same slogan? Because obviously they,
No, 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 no. But you remember it, you see. So
they
there we
do.
are.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I blagged my way into a department store manager kind of type apprenticeship, which was with
Hmm.
Debenhams in Oxford
Oh,
Street.
yeah.
So I'm 18 years old in a environment that's got 2,000 humans in it, and 75% of them were women. What could possibly go wrong?
No, sounds yeah.
So that was good.
I used to love the Debenhams in Exeter when I was a kid because just down the road from it, or I think below it, was the Toy Master. And I remember I used to go there and buy all the. You remember the cap guns you used to get?
Yeah,
And you used to get the rolls. I
yes,
used to, the amount of times I burnt my thumb as a kid because I
absolutely.
and yeah. But I remember the Debenhams because my mum would go into the Debenhams and she would let me go in the toy shop by myself. And yeah, even at probably like, back then it's probably when you could just leave your kids anywhere, isn't it? So, but I love that. Did you learn a lot in that environment then, in that kind
Oh
of
my
big,
goodness,
because
yeah.
that's like a big
So
company, isn't it?
so part and parcel of the management trainee program, because that's what it was you had to go around different departments. So you spent a couple of months in the display department doing the windows. Okay,
Yeah.
a couple of months in this department and that department. So when it came to the security department,
Hmm.
as in store detectives, so basically chasing down thieves in your
Yeah.
store, I had an aptitude for that.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up staying there for 6 months. And maybe, I was contemplating doing that for a career rather than going down the management route. But I got persuaded not to do that in the end. But that was amazing. So going to police stations in the 80s and going to court and being a witness for the prosecution because
Yeah.
so and so stole this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth.
Is that your Google bot?
Sorry about that. Yes.
I did a quick fire round for a video for a client once, probably about 10 years ago, and it was one of the questions that we asked every single person in the interview was Apple or Google, and every time we said Apple, his Siri went off. Every time we said Google, my phone went off. And we're like, this is ridiculous. I love that. So where you are like now, then obviously like it's so different from what you're doing now.
Well, you say that, but you see, so one of the things I did was when I looked at changing from HR and training to therapy and counseling and coaching,
Yeah.
the skill set is very, very similar if you think about it. Okay, because if you've got a problem in a corporate environment, where does the problem end up? HR. Because if you've got a human problem, you're going to end up with HR. And while I was in HR, I mean, there was literally nothing that was human related that I hadn't come across
Yeah.
that came across the desk. Transgender issues with this is with the employees and stuff, and how you going to handle this? How you going to deal with that in the workplace, and so on and so forth. Okay,
Yeah. And I think a lot of that as well is like is in different industries having to adapt to new ways, new things, and all sorts,
absolutely,
isn't it?
absolutely. So and understanding how humans work as well,
Yeah.
because and I use this in the practice. We are in a digital world, and we are BC, before computers.
Yeah. Yeah. It was what was it called? The Acorn Electron, I think, was my parents' first computer.
Oh
And I
God,
think
yeah,
before that they did have like a BBC one, and you
yeah,
used to have to put this like massive like floppy disk type thing in it, and
that's right.
in order to get the game to work, you had to know a bit of code, which was just bonkers when you think
Yeah,
about it now, right?
yeah. Well, I remember. So at Debenhams in Oxford Street, in the basement, there was this huge room, and it had wall to wall, looked like filing cabinets, and they were server. I mean, they weren't servers. They looked, but they basically were computers. But the whole room, in terms of computer power, it's the same, was less than my iPhone is.
So Simon, tell me a little bit more about that about you then. Like when you obviously talking about the therapist and so forth, is that something did you go into that side of it because of doing the work yourself on certain things, or was it just purely through, "Well, actually I liked working with people, or like working with humans," or was there like a backstory behind that?
No, there was a number of things. So the drivers were, I had a breakdown when I was 21. Okay, I didn't know it was a breakdown, but I was at Debenhams, and if you know where Debenhams is in Oxford Street, behind it is really close to Harley Street,
Hmm.
and they actually sent me to uh, a psychiatrist there. But basically gave me a load of pills to take for 6 months, and that was the answer. So, did I feel better and came off the pills? Yes. Was there any kind of therapy involved? No. So that's one thing. And then the other, probably the biggest driver is my daughter, who's now in her 30s with two of her own kids. When she was a teenager, she self-harmed.
Wow.
Now, you're a dad, I know. So imagine having a 13-year-old that you've discovered is cutting herself, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Hmm.
Literally nothing you can do about it. And back then it was very, very, very new. So it was, you couldn't discuss it necessarily with anybody that actually knew that it was a thing.
Hmm.
The therapy that she got eventually, after I knocked a few doors down, was talking therapy, which was a version of therapy that meant that the person that was in therapy was supposed to talk, and the person that was doing the therapy sat there and just watched and said, "How do you feel today?" And that was it. That was the
Mm.
interaction. So if the teenager didn't want to speak, then the hour was wasted, and that was it. Okay,
Yeah.
and of course, because it was, again, back then, it was NHS driven, etc., etc. So this was before CBT and so on. And it was a complete waste of time, didn't work, and she was still cutting. She went to university, and university was where she kind of, people that understood her and she understood them, and she stopped it at her own accord.
Oh.
Now and I needed to know how I could help her, which I couldn't at the time. But
Mhm.
if I was around again, how I could help her get through that. And now I've got the tools to, I understand why she did it. I
Yeah.
understand what the whole process was, and I understand if how to fix it, which is
I think that's something that every parent, you know, they want nothing more than to keep their loved ones safe. They want to,
yeah,
and to find out that they're hurting themselves is something that's deeply kind of frustrating because you can't at that time probably understand why they're doing it. And, I think I mean, I know my grandparents probably would have been the generation of, "Oh, just pull yourself together," kind of thing. And it's kind of hard to kind of connect with their pain without understanding everything else, isn't it? And
exactly.
and I think that's the thing. People don't, I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on that parents never even get to find out. So
And
yeah,
of course, the other thing is, being the dads, men like to fix things. Men like to
Ah,
fix the problem. Okay, so rather
yeah,
than listen, so when your partner is trying to tell you something because they want to just vent, like, all the man's doing is standing there trying to work out which bit to fix first. "Oh, I'll
yeah,
help you with that. I'll do this. Oh, I've got a suggestion
yeah,
for that." They don't
yeah,
want to listen to that part. They want you to shut up and listen, okay, and make
yeah,
yes noises in the right places. And if
absolutely.
lots of men understood that, then there'd be much happier relationships around the world. So,
Yeah, and I think it's being able to control that fixer upper kind of
exactly, exactly.
mindset, isn't it? I mean, I am definitely the one that I even wrote this even at the beginning of this year, was to stop helping everyone because I can't save everyone, and it's not my job to save people. I work with people, with my clients, but it's not my job to work with everyone doing what I do as a job, because it could get quite, there comes a point where you have to accept the boundaries of things and so forth. And I think, that there's one thing I definitely know is experiencing being a father. is, my daughter comes home from a bad day at school, and I'm like, that you want to, okay, we want to resolve this straight away. Like, and you get past 4 o'clock and the school phones don't work, and you just be like, yeah. So Simon, tell me a little bit more about therapy and kind of the way you do it. I know, also having a little, I kind of look on your website and so forth, and I know you've done a masterclass on in the Halt, didn't you? Was it all about sleep, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And the first thing that happened before our call is I had a little look on your website, saw the word insomnia, and now I've got faithless insomnia in my head. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about kind of what you do and how you
Okay.
work with people.
So there's over 600 modalities as far as therapy is concerned. Most people would have come across or heard of CBT, which
Hmm.
is, as far as the NHS is concerned, even today, is the gold standard. Now, I won't
Hmm.
go into the ins and outs of why it's the gold standard, but suffice to say, it had to do with the Blair government and a couple of people in a tea room having a conversation and looking to make a few quid. Okay. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
Hmm.
I'm schooled in a therapy called Human Givens that nobody's heard of. And it was fashioned about 30 years ago by these two guys who was frustrated with the landscape of therapy in the UK. And so what they
Hmm.
did is they looked at the problem, which is the human, and I identified that actually the way our humans work is emotion, thought, action, not thought, emotion, action. Anyway,
Hmm.
once they decided that that was a starting point, then they looked at a lot of proven modalities, including CBT, and took the best bits of it and the
Hmm.
best bits of NLP and the best bits of human centered and put it under an umbrella and called it Human Givens. The reason
Wow.
it's called Human Givens is because it looks at the human, and every human is different, and it looks at what they are missing in terms of their needs. So what are human needs? Things like security, privacy, autonomy, etc. There's about 9 to 12 human needs, and if you identify with that, with your human, are all your needs being met, and if some of them aren't, then that's where you start, and you start looking at that and finding out how we can improve those needs. Human Givens is very practical, and I like the idea of the practicality of it.
Yeah.
So having a goal at the beginning of the therapy is saying, right, what do you want? What do you want to happen today?
Hmm.
So you're not stuck in a therapy situation that lasts for years and years and years.
Yeah.
You've got a goal in mind. And my average client is probably between 4 and 6 weeks.
I love that. Is it? I always think it's funny. I'm going to probably judge the personal trainers now, and I know a lot of personal trainers. Actually, probably some of the best personal trainers in the world actually do say this. I think if you're in therapy for years and years and years, you're in the wrong. You're getting the wrong therapy, and it's the same with PT. My theory is if you're working with a personal trainer for more than 6 months, you've got the wrong personal trainer, because you should be working with them to gain the tools to be able to go out and do it on your own. I understand that some people totally love the one to one on that sort of level, but I'm a big believer in stuff like that. It's great you can revisit stuff and go back to someone for something different, but being with someone on a long term basis. I got a friend of mine who she said, I've got a business coach. I'm like, oh wow, cool. And she was like, I've been with them for 10 years. And I'm like, they've grown with their business. I get that to an extent, but you get to a certain point where like surely your business coach must be learning. They must be just a couple of chapters ahead of you the whole time.
Yeah, and
So
that's
what's the most common thing that you kind of work with then, Simon? I say common. It doesn't have to be
okay. So
common. I mean,
my specialities are sleep, stress, and anxiety. So those I've gone. So because I can and I've got the time, I spend 6 to 10 hours a week researching. So
hmm.
go off and find out as much as I can about those three subjects in particular. I'm currently working on a piece about ADHD, and what I'm doing is I'm interviewing 101 adults that have been ADHD diagnosed in adulthood. And the reason I want to have interviews with these people is because I'm finding and seeing more ADHD or neuro diverse humans coming through my door, and I want to be able to, for me to be able to relate to them, and for them
Hmm.
to understand that I get them. So
Yeah.
the best way for I've found, because there's not a huge amount of information out there, and from a therapy point of view, decided, well, go to the source and go and ask. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
I think that's the best kind of research, right? Definitely, definitely.
I've learned so much. I'm up to about 20, 25 at the moment. In fact, saw somebody today, and I've got another one, and so I'm booking about 2 or 3 people a week that I come across, but I'm not in any hurry, and I'm learning so much rich information about it. Okay. And, one of the biggest infos is one size doesn't fit all. Guess what? I expected that, but I can guarantee that as well. But there are threads running through that each of them can relate to. And that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I often see a lot of posts about ADHD. And I have this thing that I think we've got to a point where maybe we should stop testing people who have got ADHD to see if they've got ADHD. I've decided, you might like my theory here, Simon, we should start testing people who don't have ADHD, because one, that might be a much lower resource that we're using, but also then we can find out these people who don't have ADHD, what's wrong with them? Why don't they have ADHD? I am definitely on the spectrum of having ADHD. I've never been tested because I don't care. And I think it with stuff like that, I think it's like, one, I know I wouldn't take the medicine because it's just not my thing. I don't like medicine. I'm not a massive big pharma fan. But two, I love finding a strategy that can work with, whether it's meditation or whether it's tapping or something like that, or even going for a surf. But something that can do for me, that can kind of manage those kind of things. Is there something that you like personally had like that connection with the ADHD side then?
Well, not just the ADHD. So bring it down to practicalities. So for example, anxiety, okay, or stress, whatever you want to call it, okay, that horrible feeling on a Sunday night and you've got to go to work the next day, and all of those emotions, okay, anger, sadness. If you can regulate those emotions, okay,
Hmm.
what's the best thing you can do? A clinician hasn't come up with a different version to what I'm about to tell you. As far as I can work out, and as far as I can understand, there's 3 ways of doing it,
Hmm.
which is why people self-medicate with alcohol and class A drugs.
Yep.
Drugs, I don't recommend. Movements, which is why people enjoy going down the gym or running, etc., particularly in nature, because that brings down cortisol levels, it brings down adrenaline levels, and releases the happy hormones as well. And breath work, stroke
Hmm.
meditation, because what you're doing is you're all of those things are bringing the body back into homeostasis. In other words,
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so true, isn't it? Because being able to regulate those feelings, being able to slow your heart rate down. I mean, I love going to the gym, but I know for a fact that I've done gym competitions and stuff like that. I know what it feels like when my heart is pounding in a competition. But I also have been in a situation probably 20 plus years ago where my heart was pounding and I couldn't work out why. It's because it was anxiety and it was stress and it was everything that was going on. And I didn't have a clue how to calm it down. In the gym, I know how to calm it down, but at the time, I didn't have a clue how to calm it down. Is there a? I love this. I'm hoping you're not going to say no, but is there one
Yes,
thing that you would?
yes,
Oh,
there is.
good. There is. There is. Go on,
Oh,
tell me.
absolutely. Okay, so Um, I don't think I said, but I've been a school governor at a senior school around the corner for the last 20 years, and I go
Oh, I
in
managed. I managed to get out of that. I avoided the headmistress every
no,
day
no,
on the
no.
school run in the
I
primary.
love it. I love it. And one of the things I do is I help them out. I help their senior girls and guys that are going through the exams, and I go in before the exams and teach them this, what I'm about to show you, which is called
Oh,
it's
nice.
called breathing. There are numerous amounts of breathing techniques, but they all work on the same level, and
Hmm.
they're all doing this. And what they're doing is they're regulating your vagus nerve, and you've got 2 sides of the vagus of that particular nerve system, okay? And that is the sympathetic nervous system and the
Hmm.
parasympathetic nervous system,
Yeah.
both of which run in tandem and are supposed to be balanced. When you're
Hmm.
in fight or flight mode, which is what you just described, your
Hmm.
sympathetic nervous system goes up and you start breathing at the top of your chest. Okay. And because your system is getting ready to either fight or run. Okay. And
Yeah.
that served us greatly on the Serengeti back in the day when we were in tribes and there's a lion over there and there's us two there. And all you've got to do is outrun me. So the lion eats me. All good. Okay. So your system is getting ready for that. The only way the easiest way to do it is to breathe. Have you ever had a panic attack?
Do you know what? I actually would. I would say probably no one said you've had a panic attack, but I remember probably must be getting on for 25 years ago. I went to the doctors because I had back pain, and when I was in the doctors, something happened. The next minute, I'm lying on a bed with an ECG machine attached to me, and I felt like the room was spinning. And they were just like, "Yeah, you've had a bit of a panic attack. That's all." And I was like, "Oh, right." But it's because I got so worked up in that room that, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And
so
actually, ironically, that's why even though I do it now anyway, and I've loved the ocean. On the wall of that nursing or that room was a picture of a massive wave with a surfer on it. And I swear to God, that's why, even though I know it's because I grew up in the sea, but I swear in my mind, I still go, yeah, I calmed down in that environment because I was looking at the ocean.
yeah,
It's an anchor,
probably,
isn't it?
and it is exactly that. Okay, so 50% of us will have a panic attack in our lifetime. Every two, 1 in 2. What is a panic attack? It's too much oxygen in the system because you haven't got anywhere
Hmm.
to go because you're in fight or flight modes and and you're not fighting anything and you're not running away. So the system fills up with more and more oxygen, and then
Hmm.
ultimately what happens is the system has to reset. So you faint and then you're
Right.
reset.
Yeah.
So failing that and not having to do that is what 7-Eleven does. And it's called 7-Eleven because it's an easy way to remember it. And when you're taught it, you're supposed to breathe in for 7 seconds and out for 11 seconds. But the
Yeah.
only people I've come across that can do that are Olympic swimmers. So I
Yeah.
go 4-7 or 4-6.
Yeah.
Important part is you breathe in for 4 and out for 7. As long as the out breath is slower and lower than the in breath, then you're going to get back to homeostasis. You're going to bring down
Um,
the one level and bring the other one up. Okay,
so
so
that would be why then with Yoga Nidra, where they do the in for 4,
same,
out for 7,
same,
it's
same,
that
same
bringing
thing.
that.
Exactly the same, same,
Yeah.
same. So 7-Eleven breathing, you might have come across square breathing. You might have come across box breathing. You might have come across the sympathetic sigh. They're all the same in
Yeah.
terms of what they're doing. Okay, so they might be slightly, the box breathing was something that the military, certainly the Navy SEALs in America use, and that's can't remember if it's 4 or 5. You could go in for 4, hold it for 4, and then out for 4, and then hold it for 4. So you're 4, 4, 4, 4. You're like a square or a box.
Yeah.
And the reason they do it that way is because what you're trying to do is keep alerts because it was done for people that were yomping from one place to another. And then they had to literally take their rifle off and shoot somebody. And they needed not to be all over the place.
Yeah.
So that box breathing got them in a calmer situation. So they were able to aim the gun properly and fire the gun and kill the person they were trying to kill.
Wow, it's isn't it like interesting that you like look at that kind of thing, and that's just something that's almost so simple. And it brings me back to, I don't know if you've ever heard Deepak Chopra talking, but I absolutely love Deepak Chopra. I went to one of his events in London a couple of years ago, and he was talking about he'd been to this event, and it was some form of medical event, and he was sat on the table, and this he's obviously very pro, activating the vagus nerve, isn't it? Vagus nerve, sorry, yeah.
Vegas, yeah, yeah.
This, yeah. So he was talking to this guy, and this guy was like, "Oh yeah, we've created this chip that can go into the body that can activate the vagus nerve, and this is that and that and that." And Deepak was like, well, you can do that through meditation. You can do that through breathing. You can do that through this. You can do that through that. And the guy looked at him and said, yeah, but we won't make any money out of that. And is it mad, isn't it? You think something that is so, and I think, having the guidance on these things is great. And I think that's something I recommend with people anyway. Like to get some good techniques is always like to get your toolbox of what you need, your techniques and so forth. But is it mad that, there probably will be an app at some point that will, attach to a chip like the diabetic one to calm your nervous system, which is
Yeah,
frightening, right?
it is. Because you've already got the tools. You breathe it,
Yeah.
you're breathing in and out all the time. So if you can do that, then you can regulate yourself.
If you can do that, you can regulate yourself. And like this, I love that. It's so simple. Simon, so tell me a little bit more then. How can people kind of find you? Like, how do people work with you? Like, you say like 4 to 6 weeks normally work with people, but is it like a one-to-one
Yeah.
type thing?
I'd say 80% of my work these days are online. So
Hmm.
through Zoom and Google Chat, etc., etc. I've got
Hmm.
clients all over the UK. Anything to do with um, therapy or coaching in terms of life coaching is my bag. You can see
Hmm.
me on LinkedIn. I've got a website. My company is called cleartalking.co.uk.
Amazing.
And yeah, I tend to be present on LinkedIn. And I post about 4 times a week.
Nice, nice. Simon, before we like wrap up, I just want to ask this question because it's something I've asked quite a lot of people, and I kind of feel like you might have an interesting answer. And it's always a bit of a head scratcher. In fact, in the edit, I quite often have to move and cut the silence out because people think for quite a long time. But the question is, if you already knew the answer, what would be the question?
How content would I be in 10 years?
Oh, love that. I love that. Simon, thank you so much. I'm going to put all your links to everything you do in the show notes. Yeah, I really, I've loved connecting with you over the last 11 months, and yeah, looking forward to kind of staying connected and yeah, seeing what else happens in your world. So, Simon, thank you so much for
No,
joining
thank
me
you. It's been a
today.
blast.
And yeah, absolutely.
Great questions as well.
And that wraps up today's episode of the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps other listeners find the show. Also, go and check out the show notes to learn more about my incredible guests. Until next time, make sure you chase your dreams without limitations.